Hi! Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to watch my video. For most of this presentation, you won't be able to see my face, so I thought I'd just take a quick moment to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Brooke. I'm 17 and I'm a rising senior from the East Bay area. I'm so excited to be sharing my story and my knowledge about the field of ocean conservation. Thank you so much for joining me, and you'll learn a little bit more about me in the next few minutes, so let's just jump right in. Bye! To start off my presentation, I thought I'd share some of my favorite outdoor places. I could just choose one, so I've displayed many of the special places that I've been backpacking. Some of my pictures here include the Root Burn Track in New Zealand, the Dolomites in Italy, the Lost Coast in Northern California, and Mount Banner in Mammoth, California. Those have been a couple of my favorite trips. Now on to a bit more about me. My name is Brooke Kasl-Godley. I use she, her pronouns. As I've already mentioned, I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, more specifically Castro Valley. And the reason I'm interested in ocean conservation is I really had been lucky enough to spend my childhood just outside and exploring and connecting with nature. So it's really been an interest for me my whole life. And in terms of my future, I'm hoping to become some sort of educator, whether it be in the classrooms or out in nature, like working as an environmental educator. I'm not sure yet, but I really have a true passion for spaces where education and nature just converge. So, yeah. Now, on to the less fun stuff. So, as a person who really values my interactions with the oceans and all the organisms, climate change has always been on the forefront of my mind and a source of concern for me as it is a very significant threat to life as we know it. So, climate change is global change that's being brought on by the warming of the earth. And the warming of the earth is being brought on by combustions of fossil fuels, which emit greenhouse gases, most significantly being carbon dioxide, which absorbs solar energy entering Earth's atmosphere. And the gas acts like a thick blanket and traps heat within the atmosphere. And now, this may seem like a good thing because it keeps life on Earth going, it keeps us warm, but unfortunately, the greenhouse gas levels have gotten to have increased to levels that is not sustainable and is causing the Earth to become too warm. And as citizens, the best action against climate change we can take is to put pressure on our government to take action. Climate change is a monumental problem that requires solutions that are just as large of a scale. So it's essential that our world's governments work together collectively to reduce fossil fuel use and create a mitigation plan for the climate change that is already happening. As a citizen, individual actions are great, but collective action is something that we really need. So, protesting, donating to action groups, and voting for people that you know will strive to make change is a great place to start and create change that will actually do something. Unfortunately, climate change is not the only issue facing our oceans. Another issue that I'm interested in is eutrophication. So, what is eutrophication? The word eutrophication describes a chain reaction that produces dead zones, which are areas with little oxygen and life in waterways. So, this process begins with excess nutrients and fertilizers or soil making their ways into waterways by way of runoff. These nutrients lead to algal blooms that require large amounts of oxygen to decompose. So then a low oxygen dead zone is created in the area. So what does this mean? 65% of US coastal waters and estuaries that have been evaluated show signs of moderate to severe eutrophication. That means a majority of our waterways are rapidly becoming inhospitable to marine life. Ecotourism, fishing, and the ability to just like simply enjoy wildlife in these areas are going to be significantly affected in a negative way. So now what? What can we do? As world leaders, Americans can take a series of simple steps to mitigate the effects of eutrophication and preserve our waterways for future generations. These steps include increased wastewater treatment, increased agricultural management, and even cultivating populations of native oysters in waterways that can filter water naturally. As a single community member, you can organize and vote in support of any of these solutions. Another issue facing the ocean is overfishing. Sustainable seafood and sustainable fishing is a way to combat the problems caused by overfishing and just industrial fishing in general. So, what is sustainable seafood? Sustainable seafood consists of catching, processing, and consuming seafood with minimal harm to the environment and preserving seafood stocks for future generations. So, why is sustainable fishing important? Conventional industrial fishing practices are very harmful to the ocean for a number of ways. Number one, the equipment damages the habitat on the bottom of the ocean floor. Number two, boats and industrial fishing equipment create chemical and noise pollution that harms the reproductive patterns or just general fitness of marine life. Number four, many unwanted animals are killed. These are known as bycatch. And number five, fisheries are simply overfished to the point of extinction. So, what can we as community members do? You can vote with your dollar. Buy sustainable seafood, and if you can, reduce your consumption of unsustainable seafood. One of my favorite resources is seafoodwatch.org. They provide a helpful guide for that rates fish types as avoiding or seafood that um, is obtained sustainably. So now that we've been over some of the significant issues facing our ocean, I'd like to share some steps that you can take in order to become a change maker and do something about it. So the first thing that can help in becoming a change maker is finding out where your passion is and what sort of issues you would like to tackle, and then you can determine what sort of leader you are. So there's a couple different types of change makers. There's not everybody is one or the other. Sometimes we're a combination of them, but here are the main types. There's investigators, builders, networkers, resistors, communicators, and nurturers. So I prepared a little example that can help us kind of understand what each of these change makers are. So say there's eutrophication in your local lake. As a builder, you could create a cleaning system that removes excess nutrients in the water or figure out how to divert wastewater away from the lake. As a networker, you could work to connect farmers, which would be the source of the nutrient pollution, community members, the people who are impacted by it, and legislators, the people who can do something about it. As a nurturer, you could educate community members to what is happening at the lake in order to spark passion and interest for the issue. As a resistor, you could organize protests for legislative action in order to obtain funding or resources to clean wastewater. As a communicator, you could spread the word either online or like with flyers for protests or community forums or meetings about this issue. And finally, as an investigator, you could determine what needs to be done in order to stop the eutrophication. It could be determining if another wastewater treatment plant would be helpful, or working directly with farmers in order to keep nutrients out of the water in the first place. So, while change making is incredibly important, it's also essential for change makers to prioritize their own mental health in order to sustain our activism. Burnout is a really difficult thing to deal with, but I would love to share some of my own experiences with feeling overwhelmed and how I deal with it. So, what overwhelmed me? Scrolling through social media exposes me to like all of the issues in our world all at once can be incredibly draining. As a teenager, I'm on social media quite a bit, but I'm also applying to colleges this year. I can get overwhelmed by all the tasks that I need to accomplish in order to apply, and the thought that I will inevitably be rejected from some schools does not help. Finally, communicating with other people online can also be pretty overwhelming for me. It's easy for me to interpret people's online communication in a negative way, even though that's not their intention. And since so much of our communication occurs online these days, I get pretty exhausted by digital communication. But I found some ways to combat the anxiety that is caused by these events. One of my favorite ways to combat burnout is to just go out in nature. Especially when it comes to climate anxiety, going out into nature and reconnecting with the subject of my activism really improves my negative feelings. It's also just a fun activity, and getting my body moving always just improves my mood. I also really like to have face to face conversations with my friends in order to combat digital burnout. During the pandemic, this has been especially difficult, but now that vaccinations are becoming available, it's a lot more comfortable for me to connect with people face to face. So, thank you so much for listening and learning about ocean conservation and me. Before you all go, I'd like to mention that all of the photos included in this presentation are either my own or free via the website Unsplash. Thank you so much. Thank you again for listening, and I really hope you enjoyed.